Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Garland Thomas, and I am one of the assistant directors with the statewide revitalization team. And I'd like to welcome you to the State Revitalization Program's FY27 Award Management Orientation. I want to say congratulations on being selected to receive an SRP award for FY27. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with our orientation. Well, first, before we go into our information and review our agenda, we wanted to go over some housekeeping items with you. We want you to be aware that the webinar is being recorded. Presentation materials and the recording of this webinar will be posted to the DACD website probably within the next 7 to 10 days. And so we'll send some notification out, or if you make a note to remind yourself, you can go back to the website to find that information in the State Revitalization Programs section. We ask that you please mute yourselves, so that'll make it easier for us. We don't have to find your mic and cut it off. So we ask that you would mute yourself, and your video is optional. So if you want to leave your camera on and show us your beautiful face, you're more than welcome to do so. But if not, you can turn off your camera as well. If you need closed captioning, the third button to the left is the that says CC is available for closed captioning if you need that. We're going to have 2 question and answer periods during the presentation, and we're going to respond to those questions during the designated time. So we ask that you please don't use the hand raise feature, because sometimes that can be a little bit distracting. So I'm sure you're wondering, when can you ask your question? I'm glad that you asked. And so what you can do is click on meeting tools in the lower right corner of the screen. It's represented by 9 dots in the square. And when you click on that, you can scroll down to the question and answer feature, and you can click on that, and then you can click ask a question, type in your question, and then click post. Your question will go into that box. And as we said, we're doing our 2 question and answer periods. We will respond to questions then at that time. This is our agenda for today, and so we have 3 particular areas that we're going to review with you. First is talking about our eligibility and requirements. We're not going to spend a lot of time there because you've been selected for an award. So more than likely you were eligible and you have met at least some of the threshold requirements to receive the funding, but we just wanted to go over that just to make sure that you know what the funding should be used for. And then we're going to get into the award agreement drafting and execution, what goes into that, what your project manager does with that to prepare the written agreement for the funding. And then we'll talk about award management, how long the life cycle of the award should last, what are some expectations, not only on the things that we provide to you as our staff, but also as an awardee managing the funds of the award. And then just talk any particular policy topics that are related to your FY27 award. Now, with that, I'd like to say that the the Division of Neighborhood Revitalization, we work with local partners, which are local governments, nonprofit community development organizations, and small businesses to spark investment and renewal in the state's core communities. And so we do this through the provision of grants, technical assistance programs, and in some instances, loans. Now, let me briefly introduce the members of the Division of Neighborhood Revitalization, which works out of the Baltimore office in beautiful downtown Baltimore. If you're in downtown Baltimore today, you're probably hearing the Blue Angels practicing, because we hear it here in our building as well. And so first I'll start with Kevin Baines. I'm not sure if Kevin's on the call, but Kevin is our Director of Maryland Revitalization Programs, and he oversees the work of both our Baltimore City Revitalization team and our statewide revitalization team. Next, I'd like to introduce Olivia Ciccarelli-McGonigal. She's our Assistant Director for Policy, Planning, and Program Development. And on her team is John Papani, Program Officer. Alex Lehan, project manager, Tynan Stevenson, project manager, and Melissa Archer, who serves as the preservation officer. On our Baltimore City revitalization team, we have Larry Brown Jr., who's the assistant director. And on his team, he has Kate Howard, our program officer. She is serving Region 2, which is North and Northeast Baltimore. We have Aaron Lavitt, who's the project manager. And Aaron Lavitt serves Region 4, which is South and Southwest Baltimore. We have Sarah Kim, project manager. She's assigned to Region 3, and that region covers East and Southeast Baltimore. And then we have Jessica DeGane. She's project manager, and she serves Region 1 of Baltimore City, which is West and Northwest Baltimore. And then we have the state revitalization team, which I'm the assistant director for. And we have Jessica Agüeta. Jessica is the project manager for our Central Maryland region, which is Region 8. And that serves counties Montgomery, Howard, Hartford, Baltimore, and Anne Arundel counties. Next is Jean Cannon. She's our program officer, and she serves Region 6, which covers Prince George's, St. Mary's, Calvert, and Charles counties. Then we have Sarah Jackson. She is project manager for Region 5, which covers Western Maryland, Garrett, Allegheny, Washington, Frederick, and Carroll counties. And then finally, we have Maria Magrides. She serves Region 7, which is the Eastern Shore. So that's from Cecil all the way down to Somerset. So next, I want to go ahead and pass it to our Baltimore City Revitalization Program Assistant Director, Larry Brown Jr., and he's going to go over eligibility and requirements of the SRP funds. Larry?
Thanks, Garland. I appreciate that. Again, as Garland mentioned, my name is Larry Brown. I'm the Assistant Director for the Baltimore region. And today I'll be talking a little bit about the eligibility requirement, and primarily focusing on capital versus operating activities. So what we define capital as something that has a shelf life of at least 15 years, primarily, what you consider bricks and sticks when it comes to development projects. So land, structure, bricks and mortar are definitely eligible capital expense. And some examples of that is property acquisition, construction, as well as demolition, deconstruction, and renovations or rehabilitation of properties. But one of the gray areas that we often have discussion is when we talk about architectural and engineering drawings and designs and things of that nature. We actually help to cover or consider capital expenses, the drawings that actually go towards the final drawings that goes towards the actual construction or the actual development of the project. We understand the importance of a lot of the charrettes and the meetings and the discussions leading up to those final drawings. However, we cannot pay for them underneath of our capital funding source. That will be considered operating. So operating is costs associated with day-to-day operations, program organizations, things such as salary, anything that doesn't have a lifespan of at least 15 years, we consider operating costs. So staff salaries, feasibility and planning studies, market studies, as well as the maintenance of the organization, the upkeep of the organization. All of those things are considered operating. So again, we often encourage our awardees, if you're unsure if an expense is capital or operating, feel free to reach out to your project manager before you submit your request for payment, to have the discussion so they can provide technical assistance and guidance to confirm if it is eligible or not. We're here to help you and make your process as easy as possible. So feel free to reach out to your project managers. Next slide, please. So again, we actually have 6 different state revitalization programs. Of the 6, 4 of them are solely capital only programs or fund projects. So the first one is community legacy. The second one is Strategic Demolition Fund statewide. We call it SDF. The third is Seed Community Development Anchor Institution Fund. We call it SEED. And the last one, solely for capital, is the Maryland Facade Improvement Program. We call it MFIP. The other two of the six, which provides operating in addition to capital, the first one is, we call it Bernie, which stands for the Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative Fund. And the last one is NAD, and that stands for the National Capital Strategic Economic Development Fund. So all those who received operating funds, we definitely give you a double congratulations, because we don't have a whole lot of operating money. And again, trust and believe, we on the state side definitely encourage and advocate on behalf of getting more operating funds, because we know how critical operating funds is to helping to do the great capital projects that many of you do throughout the entire state of Maryland. So congratulations and continue the great work. Now we're going to move to the next slide. I have the honor of passing over to Tiny.
Thanks, Larry. Hi, everyone. My name is Tynan Stevenson. I'm the program manager for the Sustainable Communities Program, which is the designation program that determines where state revitalization program funds can be spent. There's a couple of exceptions. For instance, with seed awards, those can be spent in blighted areas if both the department and the applicant establish that the area that you want to spend those seed awards in constitutes a blighted area. But if one of those exceptions apply to you, you would most likely know at this stage, given you've already been awarded. But generally speaking, all of our awards must be spent in designated sustainable communities across the state. To find the boundaries for the sustainable communities, you can utilize the Neighborhood Revitalization Mapper, which is linked in this PowerPoint, as well as on our website. And there you'll be able to determine where the different designated sustainable community areas are, and to ensure that the location of your project or projects, wherever you're spending our money, falls within a designated sustainable community area. And thank you, Jess, for sharing with me. And with that, I will turn it back over to Garland.
Fantastic. I'm going to pass it to Jean Cannon, who's going to talk to us about site control.
Hi, everybody. As Garland mentioned, I'm Jean Cannon. I'm the program officer on the statewide team. My region is Prince George's, Calvert, Charles, and St. Mary's counties. And I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about site control. So site control is the legal nexus between awardees. So all of you and the particular site or sites where your projects or programs are taking place. Proof of site control, meaning it has been received, reviewed, and approved by DHCD, is required before any capital funds can be dispersed, but is ideally on hand before your award is even executed. So it's something we're going to want to start to work on now if you don't already have it in hand. Site control can take many different forms, but for our purposes, we will be looking at SDAT to see who the current owner of the property is. And if that name isn't an exact match to your organization, then we'll want to see some type of agreement, a lease, an MOU, if you're the owners, but under an LLC, some type of proof that the entities are related. We even have a standard and simple site control letter that you can have yourselves and the owner sign, showing that they have agreed to let you do the work that we're helping to pay for on that particular site. Next slide. Okay, so as I mentioned, site control can take many different forms, but here are just some of our examples. Again, SDAT, MOU, a purchase agreement, or HUD-1 if SDAT hasn't been updated yet and the property recently transferred. We understand that that can sometimes be a little bit slow, so if you have the deed or the HUD, that works as well. Depending on the exact scenario of your project, or if you're maybe a pass-through entity, then the site control might be unique or tricky to your specific scenario. So just reach out to your project manager directly, and then we can begin working with you through what exactly is needed as evidence of site control. And sooner rather than later, because again, you can't access that funding until that piece is in place. And I'll hand it over to Melissa.
Thanks, Jean. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Archer. I'm the Historic Preservation Officer for the Division of Neighborhood Revitalization. And I want to go over a few things about the compliance aspect, basically reviewing all of your projects for compliance with the Maryland Historical Trust Act. All capital projects are required to go through this process. It's a state law. And as a state agency, PHCD is responsible for vetting all the property addresses and ensuring that our funding does not adversely affect any historical or cultural resources. So we really need your help in that process. This applies to all state agencies and federal agencies. And so one of the key things is we need to know what other funding sources that might also trigger these laws, because we don't want to be duplicative. So if your project was already reviewed for a different funding source, we can often accept that determination. Or if you're going to apply for other funding sources, please let us know so that we can coordinate those reviews. As the Historic Preservation Officer, I conduct a preliminary review. We have a programmatic agreement in place with the Maryland Historical Trust that allows us to do a lot of these reviews internally. And we have a whole list of exemptions and allowances that we don't have to reach out to the trust. But there are situations, occasionally we have to consult with the trust and submit projects for the review, which takes about 30 to 45 days. Please do not reach out to the trust unless you are doing so for a different funding source, because that can often delay the process. When you are ready to initiate your review, you can move to the next slide. There's some basic information that we need to know about your project. So the first thing is the address. We need to know where your project is taking place. Some programs, you don't have an address right away, so you can initiate the MHT review on a rolling basis as projects develop. I also need to know the reference ID award number, because we save all of these and record them in the project portal. So please provide the award number so I know where to access your application. I also need photographs of the property, both interior and exterior. A lot of local historic district commissions might only be concerned about the exterior impacts of properties, but we look at the whole site, all the buildings, and sometimes even what's under the ground. Archaeology can come into play when there's ground disturbance. We also need a narrative description of the project, basically a summary that tells us what you're doing, what kind of buildings are involved, and what the impact will be. And then for projects that are more complex, that you're doing a lot of changes, we might need to see plans, renderings, drawings, project specifications, contractor proposals, anything to really give us the full scope and idea of how the project is going to impact the property. And then again, just to reiterate, we also need to know what other entities are involved. So please give us a heads up on any other state or federal agencies that are involved. And that's it.
All right, I'm Kate Howard. I'm the program officer for the Baltimore region, and I do Northeast Baltimore City as my geographic region. I'm going to take us through special conditions today, which is in Exhibit A, Section 5. Not all grant agreements will have special conditions, but those grant agreements that do have special conditions will say they have to either be resolved before the grant agreement can be executed or before the first disbursement of the funding. So the first one that usually will get added on will be the certificate of good standing. A requirement is to have the formal certificate. When you did your application process, we usually just ask for a screenshot from SDAT that says you're in good standing. But at this point, we look more for that formalized document. The next one that you could see is a recoverable loan or recoverable grant language that gets put onto your grant agreement. This will not be a surprise. It'll be something that your project manager works with you throughout the process of your grant agreement drafting. And I wouldn't worry about it until your project manager talks with you about it. The last thing that you would likely see is any site control special conditions. So site control special conditions are when the award is for acquisition, or when the award is for a program like senior home repairs or something along those lines, something where you can't produce the site control prior to the grant agreement being executed. So this will be something where you'll have to provide the site control as you do your request for payment. So you'll see that, and if there are ever any questions about what your special condition is and how you can resolve them, you can reach out to your project manager. And now you can go to the next slide. So something that's a little special for these FY27 projects is they were based on FY26 applications. So instead, a lot of the organizational documents will have to be updated. So that's sort of where we will say that we need the new site control or the new charitable, special condition for the SDAC good standing certificate. So that's one of those things that will have to be updated since the applications are a little bit older. The next thing that we want to make sure that we talk about is that if your project has changed from your FY26 application, please reach out to your project manager as soon as possible. We want to work with you on how we can go about potentially changing the project or working with you to see if there's a way to keep the funding towards that initially awarded project. So with that, I will turn it over to Erin.
Thank you so much. So I'm just here to talk about the award life cycle. I want to congratulate everyone here making it through phases 1 and 2. You proposed your project, we reviewed and recommended it. So we don't have to worry about those. So it is steps 3 to 6 that we are focused on. For the agreement drafting execution phase, it is really important that you're in communication with your project manager, that you're providing the documents they need to execute the agreement, especially as it has been a year, that you share any project updates, and that you're also clear on these awards are only reimbursable for expenses incurred after July 1st of this year. So just stay in communication, and your project managers are working as hard as they can to make sure you have a smooth drafting and a quick execution process. For active award management, this is about reading the grant agreement, understanding your obligations. So that would be making sure you submit your quarterly reports, making sure your requests for payments have sufficient evidence, making sure if they are advances, that you provide evidence for those in a timely fashion, generally by the end of the next quarter, and that you're hitting that deadline of 50% spent down by the first year and 100% by year 2. And for award monitoring, that's about you're submitting a detailed final report with all those lovely photos we love to see. And for closeout, that's about making sure you provide any last minute information, perhaps inviting us to any groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, and that'll get you to that lovely closeout letter, which makes everyone feel so accomplished. Next slide. The award agreement, again, most of this is standard language. Should you be an organization that for whatever reason requires revisions to the boilerplate language, you need to be in contact with your project manager because any changes made by your lawyers will have to be reviewed by our lawyers. Exhibit A is the part that project managers can really edit. And again, make sure you provide us a detailed description of your project. Make sure you're writing the grant agreement in such a way that you're going to have an easy time spending with funds and that the information reflected here is accurate. And again, for the budget, we're only including confirmed funding. We understand your capital stack might have changed a lot in the last year. So just please stay updated with your project manager. And for the timeline, I will highlight this because this is actually a change from prior years. These grant agreements are going to have an expected completion date of December 31st, 2028. So they will technically be 2 years and 6 months. And again, we really look forward to helping you execute these projects. We appreciate your patience with our process, and we're very excited that you're awardees. I will now pass it over to Maria, who represents the Eastern Shore.
Yes, hello. I am Maria Magrides. I am the Region 7 project manager for the Eastern Shore up through Cecil County. So I'm going to go briefly over the award agreement drafting and execution process. So the first part is your regional project manager will use our standard template to start drafting the award agreement, and they might reach out to you at this time to confirm information, see if anything has changed. And then it goes through our internal review process where we might be notified of some additional documents that we need, so your PM might reach out to you again. Once it is internally approved, it gets sent to you for signature. Your authorized official will sign it with a witness. And then once you return it to us, it will be reviewed one more time before being executed by the secretary. Next slide, please. So instructions for the award agreement. So first, your award or your PM creates the template. The draft agreement will go through the internal review of our assistant directors and our legal team. They both review it, so this can sometimes slow the process down. Once the agreement in the system is approved and ready for you to sign, you will be notified by the portal, the IGX portal system, that your agreement is ready, and it will come with instructions to tell you how to do it. After you review it and your authorized official signs it and has the witness sign it as well, you will return it through the portal. And it must be returned within 60 days of receipt, or we have to start the process over again. And then once the award agreement is returned, it goes through one more review, and then it is sent to the secretary to get signed. And it's important to note that your funds cannot be dispersed until your award is executed, and if there are any special conditions, that those have been satisfied. Next. Okay, so attachments. So those will include, so your complete agreement package will include your witnessed and signed grant agreement. And we need the whole agreement scanned. Either you print it out, sign it, and re-upload it, or you put it in DocuSign and sign it that way. No pictures, and then make sure that all of the language on the award agreement comes through, that nothing's been cut off, and that all of the exhibits which come after the signature page are included when you submit it. We will also need your official certificate of good standing. You can attach it as a PDF. We will also need proof of your charitable registration. If it says pending when we look it up on the system, we will need proof of your application and that you have paid to renew your registration. And then we will also need a corporate diversity addendum. We need a new one every single year. So just file it away that you have to update it and have a new dated one every single year. And then sometimes, depending on the project, we will need site control evidence as part of your agreement, or whatever other special conditions are required. Those will be included as well. Next slide. Okay, so submitting the signed agreement. This part is really important. There's the first section where you will upload the signed agreement, and then there is the section below where you can upload any additional attachments. And once you upload them, it is really important that you hit the save button. Up in the top right-hand corner next to where it says print, it says save. You have to hit save, or when you hit submit, nothing will come through. And then once you have hit save, on the bottom left-hand side under status options, it'll say submit signed agreement, and then you will click that, and it sends it to your PM and it notifies them. If you're concerned or worried that it didn't go through or you're having any issues, just email your PM. We understand the system can be confusing and people get stuck here. So if you're having any issues, just reach out to your PM. Yes, and that's all I have here. So I'll send it back to Garland.
Fantastic. Thank you for the presentation so far. We just want to open any questions. We didn't have any questions in the question and answer box. I don't see any in the chat at this point, but if you do have a question, you can open your microphone and ask it. If so, Desire Phyllis, go right ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick question for Melissa Archer. We are still using the project review form for MHT?
Hi, Phyllis.
Hi.
So that form that a lot of people fill out is not required by DHCD. We don't use that. That is something that people find on the Maryland Historical Trust website as a guide for how to submit projects for review to the trust.
Okay.
Some people are just in the habit of filling that out, so they include it and send it to us. And I'm not going to tell you, no, I don't want that information, because it does cover everything that we need. So it's really at your discretion, but I don't require it.
So we should just send them to you and to our project manager.
Yes, always send it to your project manager, because they are also looking at the projects. Some folks send it to the project manager exclusively, and then they review it. And if it meets all the terms and conditions of the agreement, they'll forward it to me. Some people send it to both of us or copy, but definitely your project manager needs to have eyes on the proposed work as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. We have a couple questions. For seed funding, will evidence of the matching funds be required for the final report like in previous years? Yes. Can you clarify if it is just the corporate diversity addendum or also additional documents that we will need to submit annually? When Maria mentioned that every year there are documents when you apply for funding that we require in terms of the corporate diversity addendum, the good standing, all of those particular things. Those are usually annual forms that we like to collect during the application process to verify that you are in good standing with the state and all of those particular things. But yes, the corporate diversity addendum is one of those forms. C, is the corporate diversity addendum required for local government entities? Yes. Any other questions? Let's see. Don't look like we have any in the chat. Anyone else wants to come off of mute and ask a question? Give you a minute. If not, we're going to continue with the rest of our presentation. And we're going to talk about State Revitalization Program awardee expectations. And we're going to hear from Jessica DeGain. Jessica.
Thank you, Garland. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica DeGain, and I'm the project manager for Region 1, Northwest Baltimore City. And right now, we're going to be talking about awardee expectations. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So now that we have moved into Module 3, we're going to cover active award management, monitoring, and award closeout expectation. What does DHCD expect from our awardees? In the active award management phase, this happens after Secretary Day has signed the agreement and it is fully executed. You are expected to request financial disbursements. Quarterly reports need to be submitted, and you need to follow all regulatory requirements contained in your award agreement. We're going to touch on those in a little bit. For the monitoring phase of the award agreement, your assigned project managers may schedule in-person site visits to check on your project progress or to provide technical assistance if needed. You are expected to accommodate this request. Finally, for the award closeout, you are expected to submit a final report, provide success indicators on metrics, go through a final monitoring or exit interview, and do a financial reconciliation. Your project manager will guide you through this final phase of the award. Next slide, please. Now we're going to touch a little bit more specifically on awardee expectations. Quarterly progress reports. These are strictly due 4 times a year: July 1st, October 1st, January 1st, and April 1st. Keep in mind that if you submit a request for payment and you are not current on your quarterly reporting, we may not process your request for payment. So just be on time and submit all those reports when they are due. Final report, this must be submitted within 45 days of project completion or 45 days after your award hits a zero balance. Your project must be fully completed within the 2-year timeframe established in your agreement. We also want to see that you draw down at least 50% of the award funds by your first anniversary after award execution. For payment requests, we strongly encourage you to set up electronic funds transfer rather than requesting paper checks to ensure quicker disbursements. We're going to provide details on how to go about this in a few slides down the line. As a reminder, your Maryland Historical Trust determination must be completely finalized before any physical work starts on site, as Melissa mentioned before. Next slide, please. We are continuing with awardee compliance. So you are required to provide any additional documents, specific project metrics, or address level information whenever requested by the department. It does not have to be at the final report only. Whenever the department requests for this specific information, you are required to provide it to us. Your organization also must maintain the status and you should be in good standing with the State Department of Assessments and Taxation, and you need to keep your charitable registration current. We check this before we process any request for payment. If you're not in good standing and you do not have your charitable registration current, we may not process your request for payments. Make sure that you securely retain all project records for a minimum of 3 years after the award is officially closed. If your award is a loan or a grant loan combination, you must maintain these records for the entire duration of the loan term. And with that, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Sarah Jackson. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. All right, everybody. Sarah Jackson, and I am the Western Maryland project manager, and I'm going to go over a little bit about our program expectations and also some stuff about RFPs and setting up electronic transfer. So our program expectations is more about what can you expect from your project manager. So our goal is to process all requests for payments in a timely manner. So you can anticipate getting those within 45 days of approval. It can take a little bit longer at times. Sometimes it's much shorter. It just kind of depends. If you start to hit past that 45 days, please reach out to your project manager so we can look into that. We're also here to provide you with technical assistance. So that's going to be like if you have any project ideas, anything about your sustainable communities planning, Tynan will also assist you with that, and just general kind of statewide best practices. And we're also here to advise you on any questions about eligible expenses, any modification requests, whether that be like a scope modification or a timeline modification. Next slide. Sorry, guys. I would get to delivery. I apologize. The next thing I'm going to go over is requests for payments. So all requests for payments will need to be submitted through the project portal. And this, you will need to make sure that you are current on your quarterly reports, as Jessica mentioned, and make sure that you are uploading any supporting documentation. So that's going to be any invoices, canceled checks, payroll if it's an operating. And then as project managers, we're going to be double checking that your project has received MHT review and approval. As Melissa mentioned, there are a few types of projects that don't need to go through MHT review, but those are very few, and that's something that I'm sure you've already discussed with your project manager. And make sure that when you are sending in your request for payments, that the activities that you are requesting reimbursement for are in your grant agreement. So that's going to be either an Exhibit A or Exhibit B. And I know there are some awardees that you guys have some sub-awardees. So when you are submitting your evidence, make sure that you're providing the canceled check, making sure it's showing that the funds have transferred from you to your sub-awardee and vice versa. And if you are, if you have any advanced payments, which we do allow in certain cases, make sure that you have provided the evidence for that prior to any additional advances. And we ask that your payment request could be over $3,000. We understand there's some smaller municipalities or nonprofits that's going to be a little bit more difficult. So just work with your project manager on that. Next slide. Thank you. So one new thing that we've had starting on our FY26 request for payments is that all requests are going to need to include a cover sheet. There's actually a link for this in the RFP page where you're going to be filling it out. So you'll be able to download this. This is kind of just to give us an idea of kind of what you're submitting. So for example, if you have a facade improvement and say this is your first one, you'll put RFP 1, the address of the property, when you received MHT approval, a little bit of a description. It doesn't have to be super in depth, but just kind of give us an idea. The invoice date, and how much you're requesting. Also, if this is an advance or not. And all of this, like I said, can be downloaded on the RFP, and there's a link below where you can upload it. Next page. And lastly, we would like everyone to be set up for electronic funds transfer. Most everyone is. And as Jessica mentioned, it can take a little bit longer if you are in paper check form. It's also a little bit harder for us to track it. So if you are not sure if you're set up with it, reach out to your project manager and they'll be able to help you. If not, there's instructions here. We don't actually do it. You'll have to do it the comptroller's website. But we also have a policy guide on our DHCD website, which I will put in the chat. This is going to give you information for this again, and as well as in the slides before about the RFP, it's going to give you some examples of the evidence and invoices and things like that. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Sarah Kim.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Kim, the other Sarah in this office, and I am the project manager for Southeast Baltimore region. First, I'll be discussing the conflict of interest. So any actual or potential conflict of interest needs to be disclosed, and award recipients should have a conflict of interest policy in place. Example of potential conflict could include businesses or properties owned by board members at the proposed project site. Or any potential conflict of interest should not be involved in related decisions. For example, a staff member should not participate in approving their salary increases that are paid with state operating funds. Next slide, please. So the awardee is responsible for addressing any issues that they have resulted from a fraud or misuse of DCD funding. And to help prevent this, it is recommended that you have a cybersecurity measures or protocols in place to protect your funds from fraudulent activity. And having these safeguards in place could help reduce risk and ensure that the funds is being used appropriately. Next slide, please. So we love celebrating neighborhood revitalization successes with you. So please remember to invite DCD and let your project manager know of your groundbreaking or ribbon cutting events that are coming soon. DCD appreciates the opportunity to send a representative to these events and may also request that a DCD sign is displayed at the project site. And if you would like to invite Secretary Day or any other DCD senior leadership, please use the schedule request form. And we should be able to get back to you shortly. Next slide. So records retention, the project record should be kept for at least 3 years after the award is closed. However, if the award is a loan or a recoverable loan or a combination of both, records must be maintained for the entire term of the loan and recoverable grant, and plus the additional 3 years after it ends. And now I'll hand it over to Jessica Argueta.
Thank you. Jessica Argueta, Project Manager for Region 8 Central Maryland. Thank you for sticking by us. We're towards the end of the presentation. I will be briefly discussing award compliance and best practices. So the awardee is responsible for understanding the grant agreement. If you have any new staff that comes on board in the middle of the process, please be sure that they are reading the full grant agreement. From year to year, there are some changes on the agreement, so just be sure that you are current with that. It is a responsibility of the awardee to know when progress reports are due and submit them on time via the portal. Your progress report is considered late as of the 10th of the month that it is due. Please be sure to provide evidence of spent funds and other required documents. As mentioned previously, from time to time, we will be asking for progress on the project, dates as far as groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, and other things, as the administration really wants to track the progress of our funding. So please be sure to respond in a timely manner. As of July 1st of 2026, we will be implementing a stricter compliance measures. So please be sure that you are being responsive and submitting things as you have agreed to on the grant agreement. If there are defaults that take place, we will reach out to try to cure the default, but there is a possibility that if you do not reply within the time that is allowed, that we are able to terminate your agreement and recapture the funds. And we would not like to do that, but from time to time, we do get awardees that are not complying with our standards. Any negative overall performance can affect other departmental awards. So please be sure to be a good steward of state funding. Next slide, please. Some awardee best practices. As everyone on the call has mentioned, your assigned region project manager is your best resource. We're here to provide regional information, to understand what the difficulties are or concerns are in your community and help you address those. We have several resources, not just the PowerPoint, but we have a website under state revitalization programs where we provide other resources such as the awardee policy guide and program guidelines that will help you properly manage your award. At the time of execution, again, please read the grant agreement. Please be sure to submit any pending documents or anything that may be out of date as of when you applied for the actual award. Prior to the first disbursement, please be sure to review the budget requirements and special conditions. If there are any match requirements, please be sure to review that on the agreement. Please verify that MHT approval has taken place, that your property is in an eligible area, and that all site control is documented. At the time of the first reimbursement as well, please be sure that you upload all of this information onto the portal versus email. If we do not have all the documents we need to process the first disbursement and subsequent disbursement, it is going to delay the process. So please be aware of that. And any subsequent disbursements, please be sure you're current with your quarterly reports. If it is your first disbursement and you have not submitted the quarterly report, we will not be able to process the request for payment. Next slide, please. So we are well aware that sometimes during the 2-year award cycle, there may be some difficulties or obstacles with the project themselves. So we do allow for modification requests on a quarterly basis. So that would be June 1st, September 1st, December 1st, and March 1st, which is essentially a month before your next quarterly report is due. So again, if there are some difficulties with the project, please reach out to your project manager so we can help you submit that modification request. Consider a process for collecting and submitted address-related scope information. And a good example of a best practice is for facade improvement programs. We would like our awardees to have a thorough application where they collect all the information that DHED is going to need for MHT approval, reimbursement, etc. So please be sure that your facade application is very thorough, that it has a description of the scope work, photos, eligibility verification, and that you have verified that the property owner or the business owner has a lease or ownership of the property. Next slide. Final monitor and closeout. If final report is due 45 days as of the completion date, on Exhibit C on the grant agreement, there is a drop dead date where all final reports should be submitted. However, if your project is complete prior to that date, you are able to submit for final closeout. The final report is going to be a little more extensive than a typical quarterly report because it will ask for additional narratives and responses that ask for information on the outputs and success indicators. Maryland DHCD reserves the right to monitor the project during the lifetime of the award. We will be more than happy to visit your site whenever you have a public site visit. But again, it is the discretion of the department to drop in on the project whenever we see fit. Maryland DHCD will move forward with final monitor and closeout activities once the final report is submitted and approved. Final monitoring can be done in person or via a phone interview. We will be reviewing all payment requests again to make sure that we have all the information that we need and all of our requirements are met. If something is missing at the time of final monitoring, we will reach out to you and require more information. So please be aware of that. A closeout letter will be sent out once all conditions are met. And now I will pass it over to Alex, and she will describe and outline the program impact data.
Thank you. So when you applied, you filled out the project impact data sheet based on what you were seeking to accomplish with your requested funds. So for example, if you applied to the Maryland Facade Improvement Program for $100,000 worth of facade improvements, you might have entered a plan to improve 10 facades with that funding. Now that your application was awarded, we're asking you to update your answers based on the awarded funds. So if you received the full amount, your answer should stay the same unless something changed. But if you did not receive the full amount, you may need to adjust the results of your project or program. So using the same example, if you applied for $100,000 of 10 facade improvements, but you were only awarded $50,000, so half of your request, your updated answer might also be half, so 5 facades. Your regional project manager will be in touch with you at the award agreement drafting stage to confirm these updates with you. And going forward, you'll also be expected to update your progress towards this goal of 5 facades in your quarterly reports and up until your final report. And on the next slide, I have a screenshot of what this looks like, once again, using the facade improvement example. So like I said, in this example, you'll have hoped to improve 10 facades with your $100,000 request. If you only received $50,000, then the awarded amount would go down to 5, so half of what you expected to do based on the award amount. And then in the progress to date column, this is where you'll be telling us what you're accomplishing over time. So at your first quarterly report, you might have accomplished 1 facade improvement. The second one, you might have accomplished another. So your total would grow from 0 to 1 to 2, and then all the way until 5, hopefully. That's it for me. I'll pass it back to Garland.
Thank you. We also wanted to put this up. If you have any questions about the project portal and the information, the application, all of those things, this is how we operate in terms of reporting, requests for payments. That email address is to our support system staff, and they will get back with you within a couple hours or a day or so to help you address any issues you're having with the system, navigating the system. They're very good. And so please make sure you write that email address down if you're having any issues with the portal in terms of your reporting or your request for payment process. I do want to go back. Please accept my apologies. I was incorrect about the CDA, the Corporate Diversity Addendum for government entities. You're not required to submit for government entities, only nonprofits. And so please accept my apology on that. Now, next, I also wanted to put up some contact information for our staff. We didn't have this in our last one, but we wanted to make sure we had it in this one. And so here go phone numbers and email addresses for our Baltimore City team. Again, Region 1 is Jessica DeGane, Region 2, Kate Howard, Region 3, Sarah Kim, and Region 4, Aaron Lavitt. So if you have any questions, your project is in that area, you should probably know them or at least have their email address and everything. You can follow up with them. And this is our statewide contact team. And so if you have any questions for our statewide contact team, our contact list for our statewide team, please excuse me. Region 5, Sarah Jackson, that's Western Maryland. Region 6, Southern Maryland, that's Jean Cannon. Region 7, the Eastern Shore, that's Maria Magrides. And Region 8, Jessica Argueta, and that's Central Maryland. So please feel free to contact them if you have any questions about your project, if it's in one of those regions in the statewide team. And also, you can also reach out to Larry or myself if you have any other questions as well. And so let's go ahead and deal with some questions. I'm trying to see, do we have any new questions? Okay, thank you, Rosemary, for forgiving me for that. Do we have any questions? You can come off mute, or you can type them in the chat, or you can type them in the question box. Bueller going once, going twice. It's a beautiful day outside. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you again. Congratulations again on your award. Okay, where can I find the RFP cover page? That would be, I believe, within the request for payment system. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's there. Anyone else might have an answer to that? That might not be.
It should be in the RFP page. Yep, you're right.
Yep. All right, fantastic. All right, so it should be in the RFP page. And so when you do your RFP, the page will be there. Any other questions? Fantastic. Again, congratulations.
In the chat. Sorry.
Something in the chat? Let's see. How long does the EFT vendor setup usually take? I believe it takes at least 7 to 14 business days. If you go in and you do that form and you send it electronically, they will work with you on that setup, because our department, we don't handle the payment. It goes through the controller's office. And so you can definitely follow up with them, but I believe it takes anywhere from 7 to 14 business days. We received 2 MFIP grants, and the grant periods will overlap. Should we treat that as one larger program, or keep the impact data and quarterly reporting separate? That's a great question. Talk with your project manager in your region for that, because we may amend that agreement and put those things together. And so follow up with your project manager, and they can give you more guidance on how that's going to work. Not to rush off. Any other questions? You see Jessica put the EFT form for you to access if you need to sign it up. Also, you can go to the controller website and you can find it there as well.
This is Rosemary again. I have one more question. Yes. I had in the Q&A. Is the project period 2 years or 2.5 years? As I feel like I heard both.
2.5 years for FY27, and so traditionally the award is ended 6/30 of the following 2 fiscal years, but this year it's not going to end for this FY27 award. It's not going to end until the end of the calendar year, which would be 12/31/28, I believe. So yes.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think the reason there's a 2.5 year this time is we're attempting to get these executed as quickly as possible. But as you know, we're just going to be reaching out to you all, and you're going to be working with us now to get them drafted into you. So instead of having the start date be January 1st through the next 2 years, we're starting now. So the application, like the start date's going to be July 1st, knowing that your award's probably not going to be executed by next week. So it might be a little bit later in this year that we actually get it executed and you can begin accessing those funds. So we put the 2 years kind of on top of that, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. If there are no more questions, again, thank you. Thank you for your time today. Wish you the best with your project. And we're here to support you. So if you have any questions, please reach out.